Hi guys, welcome to 9-Inch Charge, and tonight you've got Dan and myself, Lord Jolly. So, there are rumours abound that there are elves from the wood, and we were going to talk about that, but no one wants to listen to that shit. So we're going to talk about chaos. Who cares about wood elves? It's chaos all the way, guys. All the way. But then, actually, in fairness, Dan's told me we can't do that. So, what we're going to try and cover off is, although quite late to the party because all this has been leaked already, but Dan is an absolute dastardly Wood Elf general who really, it does not matter. If your opponent is not weeping tears because of their frustrations, it's not good enough. So we're going to talk through some of the combos that Dan's pulled out, see what nonsense he's found, and see if that's of any use to anyone. And you'll have to let us know in the comments below how much you love chaos and do not care about Wood Elves.
It's Old World Wednesday.
Old World Wednesday.
The Wood Elf Arcane Journal has been leaked, and it's really exciting because there's loads of cool stuff for Wood Elves. Kindreds are back. They've got a whole new spell lore. There's returning items, there's new items, and all kinds of, as you would say, Dan, janky shit that we can now do.
Indeed. So I love it. I'm so excited because like Wood Elves are your thing, and it feels like, you know, you had all that weight when we found out about the old world was coming back. You had all that sadness when it went, all that weight. You've seen the decline, actually, because a lot of the models kind of disappeared from Cities of Sigmar and stuff, and then all that excitement that old world's coming back, but then it's come back and there's still, and you've engaged with that, but there's still been this weight. But this is like truly Dan's Warhammer old world, isn't it, really?
It's all coming up Millhouse.
It's all coming up Millhouse. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, really excited about it. Obviously, as you said in the intro, Dan, lots of people have covered this already. So instead of going through the things one by one and saying, this is, you know, a new magic sword and this is what the magic sword does, next is, you know, whatever, we're just going to look at the cool stuff that combos well together. So we'll do an overview of magic weapons, an overview of Kindreds, an overview of the lore, and one or two of the new units. And then we'll have a look at how that's impacting my game and some little things I've noticed that I think will be cool to incorporate into your armies, or that you may end up playing against, I suppose, in your local meta.
And I will just whinge about all of those things all the way through.
Yeah. Well, so Kindreds are back, which is really exciting, because when the Forces of Fantasy came out, High Elves got Kindreds and Wood Elves didn't, which was really weird for me, because I suppose they gave Wood Elves a War Dancer hero and a Way Watcher hero, and they probably thought that was enough at that point. But I really like, one of the things I really liked about the army back in the day was how customizable it was and how many little different combinations you could come up with and ways you could tailor your heroes.
Yeah.
And the Kindreds coming back really lets you do that. And it's,
I think, to be fair, like in the Forces of Fantasy book, by putting Wood Elves actually back in the game, they went too far. So I think putting Kindreds in as well would have been a lot. Just, you know, my professional view.
So the rules for the Kindreds are, some characters may belong to an alter kindred, so we'll talk about the alter kindreds or the noble kindreds. A character cannot belong to both. Belonging to a kindred gives the character access to certain benefits as detailed in the following pages. The benefits of a kindred, be they alter or noble, do not apply to the model's mount should they have one.
Mm-hmm.
And they can only be taken by mages or nobles, so you can't take them on the heroes that already have the kindreds, if you know what I mean. They can't be taken on a shadow dancer or a waystalker. Right.
Yeah.
So alter kindreds, basically you can't use their leadership if they're in your unit.
Right.
But that doesn't matter because they're freaking awesome.
Okay.
So the first one is Aspect of the Hound, which is 20 points. A character who adopts the aspect of the Hound and any unit they have joined may re-roll any hit rolls of a natural 1 during the combat phase. Actually, although this is the most expensive, I think this is probably the one that is the least usable, because Wood Elves don't tend to bring lots of big units. And if you've got a unit that you'd really want to get into combat and to hit hard with, it would probably be a Forest Spirit, which you can't, or Tree Spirit, which an Alter Kindred can't join, or it would be Wild Riders, but you've got the Wild Rider Kindred that you would probably want to put in there later on. Yeah. This is like good for buffing your infantry, and Araloth's kind of army like leans into that and makes your Eternal Guards really good. And then you could put an aspect of the Hound in there and kind of buff them a bit more. I think in terms of actual utility, it's not as good as it sounds, unfortunately. The next one is the aspect of the Bear, which is 5 points cheaper. And this is infantry or cavalry only. A character who adopts the aspect of the Bear increases their strength and toughness characteristics by 1.
Right, okay. So
then you get a strength 5 elf who's toughness 4, who you can then put on a great stag, and he'll still be cavalry. It gives you +1 toughness, so your strength and toughness 5.
As an elf?
As an elf.
Didn't take long to get to the nonsense, did it?
So this one I think we'll see a lot of. I think this is great, and this, this again, when we get on to looking at character creation and things like that, pairs really well, because then all of a sudden you give this guy, even if you just give this guy a great weapon, he's then strength 7. So then, or the Ogre Blade, for example, which is like strength +2, you're now potentially wounding dragons on 3s.
Could he have that bow?
The Azrai bow, the standard bow that you take in Wood Elves now, it fires at the strength of the user.
Right.
So you could look at things like the Bow of Lorraine, which gives you as many shots as you have attacks on your profile, and that now would shoot at strength 5.
Right, okay.
So this aspect of the Bear is very good.
So even though it's a Bow of Lorraine, which is a magic weapon, it still does the same, fires at strength as user.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
So it's just like he's got a really good draw on it, I suppose, when he shoots. So this is really good, and I think we're going to see a lot of this. Aspect of the Boar is 10 points, and a character who adopts the aspect of the Boar improves the armor piercing characteristics of its weapons by 1 during the turn in which it charges, and gains impact hits 1.
Okay.
Which is cool. I think having an impact hit of 1 and getting +1 armor piercing is good, but it's not as good as being as the Bear. No. I don't think we'll see a lot of it. There are combos later on. Again, if we talk about the Stag has impact hits, so then you can kind of begin to stack your impact hits and do things like that. But I think you're going to strike first anyway. The impact hits don't matter. If you've charged as an elf, like that character has always strikes first, and he's charged. So there's no beating that, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I don't think the impact hits are that, I guess, impactful, for want of a better word, as an elf, because all right, they strike at initiative 10, but you also strike at initiative 10.
Yeah.
And the last one is Aspect of the Cat, which is the one that is another one.
Aspect of the Cat.
Yeah, so these aspects are the same as the now they've brought back the Beastmasters and the Beast Packs. You can get a bear, a boar, cats, or dogs. So these represent those.
Cats or dogs. I feel like they should have gone with like aspect of the tiger or something. Cat just makes me think of Kineko. Like your elf's gonna rock up and just be super cute in your general direction.
Yeah, but this is Warhammer Fantasy. This isn't Age of Sigmar, where it would be called, Tigroth saber lion or something. This is,
Fire off
this is,
Saber Lion. Yeah.
we're back down to earth. This is aspect of the cat.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough.
So the aspect of the cat, a character who adopts the aspect of the cat gains Armor Bane 1 and may re-roll any failed rolls to hit during a challenge.
Okay. I don't see that, to be honest. Like, Armor Bane 1, there's another. Oh, no, because the other thing only gives you it on the charge, I guess. The additional arm piercing.
So what this is good for, Dan, is it can be. So the aspect of the bear that we said was really good is only infantry or cavalry, can't be taken on a monster. So if you're looking to increase the utility of your dragon lord, and you issue out a challenge, there's that wood elf item that everybody takes, isn't there? The annoyance of netlings. So your opponent only hits you on 6s, and in return you are re-rolling your hits. And if you've taken a big sword like the ogre blade that does multiple wounds, you're going to get more through, and it just helps you beat through their characters a bit easier. So I think there is utility for this. I think it's, like you said, I think it's quite specific. I think it is just for your dragon lord or your hero that's got annoyance of netlings. But I think we will see quite a lot of this.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And is there, like, what are the rules for the aspect of the guinea pig? Are they particularly powerful?
Well, you're the one with the guinea pig, so they just spend most of the time hunting each other.
They fight each other like crazy. Anyway, going off topic again quickly.
All right, so next we've got the noble kindreds, and we'll rattle through these. So the Glamourweave kindred is 25 points. A character belonging to the Glamourweave kindred has a 5+ ward save and gains the tree spirit special rule. So it's a 25-point ward save for your mage, which is pretty good. It's cheaper than the Talisman of Protection, and it comes out of a different allotment. So if you want to put that on your mage, it's pretty good. They can still have their mount, and they're like, you can put them on a warhawk and fly them around casting spells and things like that, and give them a ward save plus give them all your items you want to take. So I would say that's very good.
Talking about mages, have you seen that they're doing made to order? I think it's made to order, or bringing back the 2 classic Wood Elf mages.
Yeah,
they're real nice. Real nice.
I'm pleased they're bringing back the one on the horse, because lots of Wood Elf players bring mages on horses, because if they join Glade Riders, then they get reserve move. So you can move, cast your magic missiles or cast your spells, and then move back again out of sight or out of range.
Yeah.
So especially if you manage to cast a Remains in Play spell, you can then get out of range so your opponent can't dispel it. So lots of people are taking Wood Elf mages on horseback, but I think the only model that exists is that classic one. So they needed to do that made to order, really.
Yeah, that's great.
So Glamourweave, I think we will see. Eternal Kindred is 20 points. I don't think we will see this one. Infantry only, a character belonging to Eternal Kindred and the unit they have joined may re-roll hits of a natural 1 in the combat phase. And in addition, a character belonging to the Eternal Kindred and the unit they've joined may re-roll failed rolls to wound during the combat phase whilst within 6 inches of a special feature, which is like the Watchtower. I don't, it works in one scenario. Maybe this is a nod that we'll see more special features coming out in the future of the game. But
do you not have the ability to summon woods anymore, and do they not count as a special feature?
You can, but they're not a special feature. They're just a feature. So the next 2 are really good.
There. Opportunity missed there to give the Wood Elves another ridiculous thing, I think.
Yeah, but don't worry, there's 2 more coming. So the last 2 kindreds are pretty usable. I'm going to take the Wilder Kindred in my next game and see how it goes. So this is 20 points, Wood Elf Nobles only. A character belonging to the Wilder Kindred must be mounted on an Elven Steed or a Great Stag and may only wear light armor. In addition, they gain the Counter Charge, Frenzy, and Furious Charge and Talismanic Tattoos special rule. Reasons why this is significant is because the Great So Wild Riders have got the counter charge rule, and the Great Stag does not have the counter charge rule. So
Right.
if it joined the unit, they couldn't counter charge.
Right.
So this is a way to get your hero in on a Great Stag and give them that ability to be able to counter charge, which felt like it was an oversight in the book in Forces of Fantasy, and something that was a bit of a gripe of mine that they've corrected now through this item.
Mm-hmm.
And then giving your hero Frenzy and Furious Charge is +2 attacks if they've charged.
And do the Wild Riders have Frenzy anyway, or Impetuous, or?
They have both. They have Frenzy and Furious Charge as well.
Okay.
So they're base attack 1, Frenzy another attack, and then on the charge +1. So they're 3 attacks each. But then your hero, if I'm taking it at a hero level, is base 3, so he'll get up to 6 attacks on the charge. And then you can add in things, different weapons and items and things to add your magic weapons on top of that. So he'd be pretty good, I think.
And are your Kindreds coming out of your magic item points cost allowance, or is this an additional on top of the
This is additional. Yeah, this is an additional on top. They can get these and still have their magic points allowance.
Sweet.
And the last one, I didn't think there was a lot of utility in this until I had a bit of a think about it. And now this is something that I really want to try, and I'm gonna alter my list to incorporate this. And this is the Scout Kindred.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 15 points, and it gives an infantry character the Scout special rule and the Quick Shot special rule. And if you watched the previous episode, Dan, where I spoke about the battle that I had with my cousin when I was playing against his Tomb Kings, and I took an Empire army in that game. But in turn 1, I had quite a lot of shooting, quite a lot of magic missiles, and some hexes and things like that. But in turn 1, I wasn't in range to be able to cast any of them, and he was sat back 24 inches away. But what this does is this starts your mage up the table. So for Wood Elves, spells like Plague of Rust are really important to reduce someone's armor save, and then you can try and get, even if it's tough, you can try and get through those 6s with your poison arrows and start to chip wounds away because they won't have a particularly good save against it.
Yeah,
you can deploy within range to start casting these spells, and you can deploy within range if you don't get the first turn. That you can have a go at dispelling if people are trying to get their enchants up, but you're too far away. So I think the Scout Kindred, although you get Quick Shot and you can make a sort of stealthy kind of Waystalkerish type character, I think it is just built for a mage.
Yeah, well, so I think that's also so it gives them Scout, yeah, so you can get the Scout move in. So I guess certainly early on, I mean, once people cotton onto it, maybe not, but people might deploy in such a way thinking that they're safe from that sort of thing, and then you're going to make that Scout move, and suddenly that mage has actually got that reach.
Yeah, and what the other thing that it pairs really well with in Wood Elves is that you get that free wood. So, and if so you can put that down knowing that you're going to be within, hopefully going to be within range to dispel or to cast in your first turn. And then also, if you're behind that piece of terrain, you're out of sight because you can't see all the way. You can't see through. You can see into terrain, but not through it.
Yeah.
So you deploy just behind it and still be perfectly safe. If you know, for example, you just want to dispel, or you want to move and then cast a magic missile. If you want to cast a hex, you have to do that in the command phase. So you're going to have to kind of put your wizard out there a bit. But if they come with a bigger unit of scouts, so traditionally I take MSU, but now I'm looking at taking a unit of 10. That way it gives the mage a bit of cover, can't be targeted, and it's more difficult to whittle that unit down to 4, whether you then can target the mage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the Scout Kindred is really good. I think the Wild Rider Kindred is really good. I think the cat and the boar, the cat and the bear are very good. And I think that we will see all of these in different roles and different functions. So now we've spoken about them, and I did say we kind of wouldn't go through everything methodically, but with the Kindred, you kind of have to, because as it turns out, the magic weapons don't make a lot of sense without first knowing the Kindreds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're not going to go through all the magic weapons, but we're going to go through the ones or the magic items that I like the best. So the first one is Vol's Wrath, which is a 55-point bow, pointed specifically so that the Waywatcher archer shooting character cannot take it, because he can only take 50 points of magic items.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going on your Lord level character. It's 32-inch range, strength +1, AP -2, flaming magical attacks, multiple wounds 2, and once per game, it can be shot like a bolt thrower and used the through and through special rule.
Flaming's cool as well. Trolls, regeneration. I'm just thinking of things that are flammable that aren't Wood Elf.
It's pretty much just Wood Elves.
It is just Wood Elves, unfortunately, isn't it?
So this pairs well with the bear aspect of the bear, because you start as base strength 5. So you're shooting a strength 6 bow at 32-inch range, which does multiple wounds 2 AP2. So this is, although it's only one shot a turn, it's a pretty good answer to things like Pegasus Knights, because you know you're going to hit on 2s. You're then wounding on 2s if you're strength 6 against toughness 4. So, and then your AP2, so you're pretty good at getting into some of those tougher units that you see.
Yeah.
So I quite like this. I like that it goes through and through, because there's the chance there that you can get that shot that will glance a couple of them and go through.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really cool item. I really, really wish it was 50 points, because you could still have the strength 6 on it. And it wouldn't compete in the same space as a Glade Lord, who potentially you want to put on a dragon if you're playing, that competitively. I think that we would see this all the time if it was 50 points, and now we will probably see it less than it deserves. But definitely still good and worth a place, worth a mention. And I have got an army list that includes it that we might talk about later on. So if we move into enchanted items, my pick of the enchanted items is the Crown of Antlers. And the Crown of Antlers gives the wearer Armor Bane 1 and impact hits D3, and the impact hits have AP -2. So that's pretty good for 35 points.
Yeah.
And then again, talking about the aspect of the bear, you could make those impact hits strength 5.
Yeah.
Because that'll be the strength of the user. You could take the aspect of the boar, and then you get D3 +1 impact hits.
So, and would that pair up? Can you get all of that onto a dude on a stag?
Yeah, So you could take the aspect of the boar and a stag, and you would have D3 impact hits +1 for the boar, +1 for the stag.
Yeah.
And your D3 would be at -2. Your boar one would have to be, I think, just standard, and I think the stag one is AP1. So they all got different rules, so it gets a little bit complicated. But you're basically giving yourself up to 5 additional attacks before you do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the arcane items, again, there's only one really that I want to mention, and that is the Heartwood Pendant. It's 15 points, and it gives you access to Law of the Wilds, which is the brand new law that we'll talk about. So at the moment, you can only take this new law in the Araloth Army of Infamy, and this gives you access to it outside of there.
Right.
I think my criticism of this, if I were to have one, would be I would have loved to have seen it on a spite, because it means that if you don't take Araloth's Army of Infamy, you can't have a Branch Wraith or a Tree Lord Ancient take the new law in your army.
Right. Okay.
And that is quite significant, but we'll see that later on. The magic armors, both of them are pretty good. Mantle of Rebirth is 40 points, and it's a suit of light armor. And in addition, the wearer has regeneration 5+, which is pretty good. It's cool on the Wild Rider Kindred, because they can only take light armor, So this is a magical suit of armor that they could take and get a regen. If they're a Lord level, they could also take Talisman of Protection and then become sort of 5 up, 5 up.
I was just going to say which slot is that sitting in. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. The only thing about it is if you're riding a monster like a dragon and the dragon has got an armor value, you have to choose which armor you use. You can either use the dragon's 4+, or you could use this light armor and shield for a 5+,
right?
And then get your regen after. So to access it's not quite as good as it seems, I suppose, in a way. It suits the stag much better because the stag has armored hide, which increases your armor save. You don't have to choose.
Yeah, yeah. The nice thing about the stag as well is that model is awesome.
Do you know what that model is like? It's like the most Marmite model out there.
Really?
Because it looks more like a bull than a stag. It's very muscular.
I'm going to look at it. That's why I'm looking down, not just being rude. Oh, I love the mage. I'm going to go off on tangent now. I love the Wood Elf mage on Warhawk. I think that's cool. Cool classic mini. Oh look, there's the beast pack that fell out the back of the cupboard. Yeah. Where is he? Oh, he's out. He must be out of stock. There he is. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. No, I like that model. But I do see what you mean, actually, now you say it. It does look a bit boring. Yeah. Okay. I will allow that opinion.
Okay, so next up is the other suit of magical armor. Again, light armor. It's 30 points. It's the Cloak of Tumbling Leaves. And it gives you fly 10 and swift stride. However, you cannot join a unit. I think it's got some utility. We were talking before about that bow and making sure that you've got a line to go through a unit and penetrate the ranks properly. That would help with that. You could have it with that Crown of Antlers and just charge like from out of the side of a unit into a war machine or something like that and become impactful.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. You could hop around the tabletop, so it's only regular infantry or heavy infantry, but you could sort of go between, next to a unit of Eternal Guard up to next to a unit of Scouts. You still could never be targeted, and it gives you a lot of movement. I think it's fine. I think we'll probably see it now and then. It's a shame that although it's a cloak, its type is armor, because I think it'll be cooler on a mage than on a hero. But yeah, and then the last thing I want to talk about, because I'm not going to talk about the banners because they're just dog shit, basically. Not worth it, unfortunately. 80-point banner that gives you improve your leadership characteristic by 1 to a maximum of 10 when your general's leadership is 10.
Let's move on. I don't want any claims that the Wood Elves have been hard done by in any way. Thank you.
So this is Orion's Favor. This is a 25-point talisman that I think is really good. So it's a single use, and the bearer of Orion's Favor may re-roll any failed rolls to hit and or to wound during the combat phase.
That's good.
What it is especially good at is the Dragon Slaying Sword.
Yeah.
When you're fishing for that 6 to wound.
Re-roll any failed, is it? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not. I checked that as well, because if it was just re-roll wounds, you just re-roll all your attacks again, but it's re-roll failed. So
I guess the good thing is, in fairness, if you're going up against something like a monster, it's likely to have good toughness. So you're going to be wanting high numbers anyway, aren't you? So you're going to have a larger percentage of failures.
Yeah, and the Dragon Slaying Sword doesn't give you any bonus to your strength. So you're still going to be base strength 4, and then you can re-roll that. So you're going to wound on a 6 anyway against another dragon or something like that.
I feel like you could do a video, Dan, of like how to use the Dragon Slaying Sword in every army. It comes up all the time.
So this, I think, pairs quite well with the Wild Rider Kindred, because if you take that on a Lord, you've got a base attack of 4 anyway, and then you can go up to 6 attacks by being frenzied and having Furious Charge.
Yeah. Okay.
You can then take the Befuddlement of Mischiefs, which is a spite on your Lord, which gives your enemy -1 to their weapon skill. So you're pretty much guaranteed to hit them on 3s then.
Oh, they're just
re-rolling.
Bunch of knobs, aren't they? Oh.
So you're pretty much going to hit. You probably will hit, 5 times, say. 5 or 6 times out of your 6, 3s re-rolling, and then you're fishing for 6s, but you've got a 1 in 6 chance out of 6 dice, and you can re-roll your fails. So the likelihood is you are going to roll a 6 to wound and slay the dragon.
Yeah.
So that is why that's a really cool 25-point magic item.
I love it, really. I think it's cool because, a lot of these things like -1 to hit, or the fast stuff, the effectiveness, it really leans into this sort of glass hammer type thing where they are really good, but they're going to overcome you by sort of getting out of the way or befuddling you, as it were. Because if you hit them, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, because this is a single-use item, so you've got one shot. You've got a good chance, but it is a dice game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know that when it pays off, you're going to be so
you are going to get those tears. You are going to get those tears. You're going to get your little vial out and capture those tears for your Wood Elf shrine at home.
Okay, so let's talk about the lore. There are probably 3 spells that I really want to talk about in the lore. So the first is it's probably 4 actually. The first is a signature spell. It's got a casting value of 8. It's an enchantment that casts on yourself. And until the next start of turn subphase, any model that directs a shooting attack against the caster or any unit they have joined must re-roll rolls to hit of a natural 6. So I think this is great on a Tree Man Ancient because it negates poison, because this is what people are going to try and do. This is what my cousin does. He takes a big unit of 40 archers and he can make them all poison shots. Goblins can take poison shots. This is the thing at the moment. You obviously big monsters, you want to poison them off, but if you've got a Tree Man Ancient that's got this, it negates that poison and gives him a bit more survivability because he is a large target.
Yeah.
So I like that, and this is why I think it's a shame that you can only take a Tree Lord or a Branch Wraith with this lore in the Army of Infamy and not elsewhere.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, is there like a background reason for that, a narrative reason for
that? I haven't read the narrative, so what's been leaked hasn't been on the lore yet.
I do apologise. I had over-assumed there, definitely.
We are just going on what's been leaked, not what we can actually read at the moment.
I know.
So the first spell is a magic missile, Fury of Athel Loren, and it's got a casting value of 10, a range of 18. The target suffers D3 + 1 strength 6 hits with an AP of -2 and multiple wounds 2.
That's good.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about not Grail Knights. We were talking about Pegasus Knights earlier, weren't we? And this is the solution to Pegasus Knights.
Yeah.
Or other cavalry. You'd even have a go, wouldn't you, against the big, other big monsters. Particularly strong against things like giants, because giants only have heavy armor. They don't have any regen. So you just cut straight through that. You're wounding on 4s. You do a multiple wounds 2.
Yeah.
So that's a great spell.
That is a great spell.
The next one I want to talk about is Sapping Blight, which is a hex with a casting value of 9. It's only range 12, so you've got to be really close to be able to cast it. But it can be cast into combat or against an enemy that's engaged in combat. So that kind of helps. So it's got a bit more utility. If your opponent has come into combat with you and your mage just stood nearby, it's not too bad. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy suffers a -D3 modifier to its strength characteristic to a minimum of 1.
Yeah, good.
So this is great for elves because elves are only toughness 3. So
well, yeah, and also -D3 is also because a lot of things will be strength 3. And so you're going to be going to 5s, but anyway, what most of the things you're going to be fighting, it's going to have quite a big immediate impact, isn't it? You're going to be moving an entire, you're going to be taking away a set of dice results from your opponent, aren't you? That shift, whether it's strength 4 down to 3, moving to 4s instead of 3s, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think this is a really great spell, to be honest.
And I think as well, like in Warhammer Fantasy, where generally, not always, but generally, the number of attacks that are coming at you from units, etc., is not as high as some of the games like Age of Sigmar or 40k, where you can be picking up buckets of dice and rolling them. So those modifiers are going to have a big impact.
I like the idea of taking a monster down to strength, like a dragon down to strength 3.
Well, yeah, if you roll well, yeah.
That is super helpful.
Yeah.
And it will, really help your units survive a turn where they would just get eaten alive, basically. So yeah, I really like that hex. I think that's great utility. That's really good. All the spells in the lore are good, but as I said, I wanted to just kind of give an overview of what I think has the most utility. So the next one is Durthu's Wrath. This is an assailment spell. So your mage has to be in combat. So again, you don't really want your mage in combat unless they're a massive, tough tree. So this is where it gets a bit tricky. The other mage that you might accept being in combat is you can take a mage and put them on a normal like elven mage, put them on a unicorn, and give them the Glamour Weave Kindred, so they get the ward save and become a tree spirit, and then put them in a unit of tree kin.
Have you got a model for that in the Wood Elf list?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, you'll be absolutely chuffed. There is a wonderful, wonderful spell, mage on unicorn, fallen straight out of the back of the broom cupboard, coming out for high elves that you can use. And actually, you're welcome to use it. You can have the one that they've cast for me to buy.
There we are. Thank you.
So, I'm not going to pay for it, but I think realistically, there's an argument to say Games Workshop should write to you and pay you to have it.
So we're still riding this high unicorn of yours. You're not off your high horse just yet with this. I don't like old models. Please give me new stuff.
I do like good old models, yes.
Right. So what this spell does then is this is an anti-line hammer spell, believe it or not.
The line hammer that never materialized.
It targets every model in the fighting rank of a unit that the caster is engaged with. And they have to take an initiative test, and if they fail, they suffer D3 strength 4 hits with no armor save permitted, but you can take a ward or a regen.
They have to take a what test? A strength test?
Initiative
test. Ooh, dwarves.
Yeah, no armor save, strength 4.
If you listen carefully on the wind, you can hear the cries of anguish coming out of Henry Steele's hobby space.
You can see the Book of Grudges opening. And
the Book of Grudges.
Yeah. So this pairs really well. There's a spite. So again, you can put this on your tree lord. He can take spites. There's one called Befuddlement of Mischiefs, and that reduces the enemy's initiative by 1. So then you can get up on there. And then the other thing that it combos well with is in elementalism, the signature spell is a hex that can reduce the enemy's initiative by 1 as well. So you can potentially get this down to -2 initiative through hexes and an item, and then cast this.
Nice.
So even against elves and things that are quick, it's pretty good. I think that's a really cool spell. There's some debate about whether or not Sisters of the Thorn can take the signature spell for elementalism. I would say rules as written, they can't.
Right, okay.
Because it says that they roll randomly for a spell, but it doesn't say they generate their spell like a mage who's a level 1. They have to roll and get the spell that they have rolled.
Yeah. Okay.
But there might be a TO that rolls it differently. If you've got an opinion on that, I'd love to hear it. Any way that I can just make this a bit better. If you've got a justification, I'm willing to hear it. So those are the magic items. That's the spell lore and the kindreds. The only thing I want to touch on before we go into looking at character builds and how it's going to shape my army, other than what we've touched on, is I want to talk about the new beast packs, because they've been getting a mixed reception out there, because the beasts themselves aren't brilliant, but I think they're really good. They're really cheap. So the unit costs 1 handler. Let me find him. One beastkeeper who is 11 points, and then he can take 1 to 3 hounds, 1 to 3 cats, 1 to 3 boars, or 1 bear, and the hounds are 8 points each. So you get 24 points, 8 hounds, plus 11 for the beastkeeper. You're looking at 35 points for a unit of 4.
So that's not a lot.
Yeah, and they're skirmishers, and they've got run with the pack, which makes the handler as quick as the hounds. So then the unit is movement 9. So you can use these to screen your frenzied units, so they don't just charge off into the distance when you don't want them to. They can come and get in the way. They can do all sorts of stuff. For 35 points, they're really good, cheap chaff that can just march 18 inches across the board and be exactly where you need them to be.
Yeah, be a pain in the bottom for the opponent.
Yeah, people are saying, well, you could take a Great Eagle for that, but you can't screen with a Great Eagle because it's not big enough.
I was just gonna say they're like they're like the Great Eagle, but they're another sort of utility, a different. They fulfill a similar role, but in a different way that helps fill the gaps that the Great Eagle leaves.
Yeah, so I really like them. I think for 35 points, you can't really go wrong. And I'm looking to take, I would say, 2 units in my army. The thing that is really interesting about them, which I think will lean into some really cool list building, is I think earlier we were talking about how you would want to take a Wood Elf Mage on a steed, because if they join Glade Riders, they get reserve move. Now, there's a rule here that models that join them get. So this is run with the pack, and this is, whilst 1 or more beastkeepers remain within this unit, the unit is not subject to the undisciplined rule, and war beasts within this unit do not fear models with a flaming attacks roll. In addition, a unit with this special rule may use the movement characteristics of the majority of the models in the unit. So if you've got a unit of one beastkeeper and 3 hounds, and then you add in a hero, that hero becomes movement 9.
Nice. With his bow.
Yes, exactly this. So you can have the guy with the bolt thrower bow in this little unit who is movement 9, zipping around the table.
Yeah.
And then you can equally do the same with the guy who's got the bow of the wren, got the multiple shots, and he can still have the kindred to make him the additional strength. So you've got strength 5 multiple shots going around the table. You've got this strength 6 bow going around the table. I think that the Beast Pack might secretly be the best 35-point magic item in the game.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I really like it. They fulfill just loads of roles, and I know they're not the most hard hitting or all this kind of stuff. But if you really want to lean into the Wood Elf MSU janky kind of nonsense, and then put a character in them that can zip across the table like it's nothing, I love them. I think they're great.
Oh,
And
and the other thing you could do, because what are the beasts that they can have?
boars, cats, dogs, and bears.
You know the old like wood elf mage that like is like an old woman looking thing with the stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, her with cats, like a crazy cat lady. That'd be fab. You were thinking there might be some tactical insight there, but no.
I was hopeful. And of course, they're only $110 per unit if you want to buy them. Or I think they're like £60 or something, crazy. So, I think for me, a pack of Fenrisian wolves is looking more likely.
Yeah.
They're better sculpts. They're just, why wouldn't you? Or 3D print them. I think that, obviously there's the nostalgia factor, and people will lean into that and remember those models and want to play with them. But I would say find any elf out of your bits box or bits of elf and make one and buy a pack of Fenrisian wolves.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So with all that covered, this is my new hero loadout for when I'm going to play games. So I've got a game lined up with my cousin. I'm taking the Wood Elves, and some of it has changed, some of it hasn't. Some of it has changed kind of subtly, and some of it is very different. So this loadout for heroes is 3 heroes, and it's 985 points for all 3. So it just fits in your 1,000-point allowance. So it is quite hero heavy.
Yeah.
So I have got a Spellweaver level 4 of Elementalism, who's the Scout Kindred.
Mm-hmm.
And they are running the Ruby Ring of Ruin and the Lore Familiar. So I can pick Plague of Rust and get within that range.
Yeah.
The alternative build of that is to drop the Lore Familiar and take the Oaken Stave, which is what gives you extra dispel. So you can shut down your opponent's magic turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I would kind of like to be able to cast Plague of Rust straight off.
Yeah.
So that's what I've gone for with that, and I think we will see the Scout Kindred Mage more often. I think as well we may well see 2 level 4s instead of a level 4 and a dragon, because I think that Elementalism complements the new spell lore pretty well.
Yes.
And 2 level 4s is great, but for this game I'm going 1 level 4 and the dragon. So the dragon is a Glade Lord, and he's pretty standard. He's on his dragon. He's got the Ogre Blade and Talisman of Protection. He's got Annoyance of Netlings for you can only hit me on 6s in a challenge. Befuddlement of Mischiefs to reduce the enemy's weapon skills, so hit them on 3s, and then Aspect of the Cat for the rerolls. And he is specifically hunting out other dragons and other monsters and tough characters and trying to get them off the table.
Yeah.
And I think Annoyance of Netlings is a good enough protection against, if your opponent has that ability to have Monster Slayer like Bretonians do, or if they've got the Dragon Slaying Sword, you still, you've got to hit me.
Yeah.
It's going to be on a stick. So I think he's pretty good. So that's the build that I'm going to take there. And then I've got a Glade Captain who is the Wild Rider Kindred. So he has Frenzy and Furious Charge. So he is up to 5 attacks. And he has got the Crown of Antlers for D3 impact hits, which will be at strength 4. He's on a Great Stag. So with his light armor shield, he's a 3+ save. I think he's a really solid character. He's going in a unit of Wild Riders that will have the Vanguard banner. So they'll start halfway up the tabletop. If I don't get first turn, potentially they can be shot off fairly effectively. I would hope that my opponent would be baited into charging them where I've put them, and then I would counter charge, or I get first turn and hopefully win that charge. That's the play down that side, and I think that'll be pretty fun to see him go into combat and do some stuff, especially if I manage to win the first turn.
Yeah,
and get that charge. So that's what I'm going to take. That's what I want to try out. And I'm really looking forward to trying it. I guess the other alternative would be to take aspect of the bear and have him potentially not join the Wild Riders, and have him out solo. Be toughness.
Yeah, that way, I guess you could split them up. So then your opponent kind of got to choose: are they going to go after this guy who's over on this flank, or are they going after that unit?
Yeah, and he'd be toughness 5, 3-up save, and still great with his impact hits.
Yeah,
D3+1 impact hits, and then a great weapon. So yeah, he's a really good, solid elf character. Probably not as good as a Bretonnian Duke, but like he's not too far off. If you know what I mean. For an elf, it's really good. So then, just for fun, I've got a couple of different builds that I just wanted to run through. So there's a Glade Lord here on a stag, who has the Wild Rider Kindred for to get him those extra attacks, and then he's got the Dragon Slaying Sword, Befuddlement of Mischiefs to increase his hits because that reduces your opponent's weapon skill, and then Orion's Favor to reroll hits and wounds. So this is the 6 attacks that we spoke about earlier. Trying your best.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a 3-up armor save. He suffers 4. So if it doesn't go well for him when he charges, and he's going to get baited out because he's got Frenzy, so you have to be careful where you're placing him and what he's going against. If it doesn't go well for him, it's not going to go well really hard. But equally, if it does go well, he's going to be the hero of the hour. So I've put him in the list of cool stuff you can do. And then I've got 2 little shooty heroes that we spoke about before that can go in with the beast packs. So Glade Captain, which is like your hero level character, Bow of Loren, aspect of the bear, and Swift Shiver Shards. Which they give him +1 shot with his bow. So he would shoot 4 times at strength 5.
Are they a magic weapon?
They're magic arrows that you can use in conjunction with the magic bow.
But you can't use them, presumably, with that other bow we discussed, the 55.1.
No.
That's
because that isn't an ultra longbow. Yeah, that is a shame. And then I've got a Glade Lord on foot, aspect of the Bear Vol's Wrath, that other bow we spoke about. And in addition, you probably would chuck a Talisman of Protection on him, just in case he got separated from the pack, because he would probably be your general.
Well, and also, the Talisman of Protection sales team, need to make their money, and they're just dolling them out. They're just smashing them out over and over.
Or you could drop the Talisman of Protection, and you could take the Ruby Ring of Ruin, which you could still cast after moving 9, because you wouldn't have marched.
Very good.
So those 2 in beast packs, I think, are pretty fun. And then the last thing I thought was quite good would be Treeman Ancient level 4 Befuddlement of Mischiefs to reduce your opponent's initiative by 1 if they're in base contact with him, and then try and cast that spell. And that's those are my musings on the new book. But I'm really excited to use it. I'm really excited to play that game and try out these new Kindreds. I think it adds loads of flavor to the army, and there's lots of customizability. I think it feels like Wood Elves have felt very static, especially before the sister they FAQ'd the Sisters of the Thorn, where the army list was like Right. Okay. So we've got the Giant Dragon with the challenge item, and then we've got 3 units of Sisters of the Thorn that are all going to cast Pillar of Fire, and the rest is just like archers and stuff. Like now, it's opened up the Wood Elves quite a lot, I think.
I think that's great. I mean, obviously, people play them for different reasons, but my love of the old world and fantasy really, it harkens back to those old Tale of Many Gamers articles where it was just exciting to get each unit and something different, and you had that variety. And it's nice when an army list gives you that opportunity to both do that but also still be effective on the tabletop, because there's, as much as I love a bit of narrative, you still want to be in the game. I think anyway, for me, if I decide to move beyond just drinking beer and eating cheese after we've set up, you want to be in the game. So it's nice. It's nice that the book gives you those options. I like that.
Cool. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the book. Let us know what you think of the rules so far. Let us know what you will be taking. Have you noticed anything that we have missed? Do you have any potential ways to combat this kind of thing? How you feel playing against this kind of army? We've got to have my poor cousin out for when I play him next week with these. And looking forward to hearing your comments. Make sure you have liked and subscribed if you've enjoyed, and thank you for making it this far. And we will be back next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.